From Yammy TV. As you know already, I'm on holiday, a holiday resort, not too far from here, but while I'm down here, it came to my mind that I should visit some of the prisons, some of the most dangerous prisons I ever came across. Sorry about the noise, the police have been here already this morning. We don't want to upset too many people, but we're going to start with Albany, which was one of the most fearsome reputations and worries that I had heard on my journey in a sweatbox up until I got to this gate. How was I thinking of handling it? How was I thinking of feeling it? I'm going to explain it. So here we are, Isle of Wight, Albany. So as you can see there, that is Albany Prison. Category A, right? Remember the escape in Parkhurst? That was next door. We're going to get onto that in a few days' time. But Albany, on my first ever appearance, I was absolutely terrified. Terrified because why? The reputation of it, all the big names you hear as a youngster, as a young and up-and-coming criminal, you know, you kind of idolise and think that one day, you know, you might get to meet them, and all the feelings that you might be able to learn off them and all the thoughts that go behind it. But Albany, I can remember the day I turned up in the sweatbox. The minute I appeared, those walls there, so you're coming through the sweatbox, and in that sweatbox that day, all I was thinking about was, am I out of my league? You know, I was only a youngster, the IRA were there, you know, all kind of ex-big name criminals, if you like, were there as well. Pat, even Razor Smith, they were there too, and some of the names that I mentioned also. So I came up to that gate and I was in the sweatbox. We're not taking no pictures, we just had the authority, we're spreading the message, I work for it. Right, good try sir, not happening today. I've already talked to everybody already. We're not out here to glamorise or upset anybody in there. Really what we're here today is to send my message of how frightening it is to come to places like this. Now Albany, in the old days, was a bit different from Parkhurst, because Parkhurst was more like for the old Cockney gangsters and all the big hierarchy criminals where you could cook your own food and you got the whole place running. Albany for me was always a place of punishment after Parkhurst. Some of the worstest sexual offenders, which were isolated during the time when I first got there, were on probably 2 or 3 wings. The rest of it was normal. Another time I went there, it became all sexual offenders, and during that time there were still 2 normal wings open, but the sexual offenders had the run of the jail, and now it's all sexual offenders, or unless you're on the Rule 43 protection and you want to come out here and feel safe, this would be the place where a lot of people would go. But on coming here, like I told you already, very frightening experience. How was I thinking I was going to handle it? Well, I was thinking, well, all I could do really is be as bad as everybody else, you know, to raise that. But really, I was fearful. So I came through that gate there, and as you can see here, this is my nephew, by the way, that I've got down here in the Isle of Wight. Another one, you're going to see him in a minute. Those are the walls there. Those are the walls of Albany there. And just seeing them for me, if you go around the perimeter, which we've already been warned about this morning, which I wasn't allowed to do, which I tried to do, but not allowed to do it, and I won't be doing it today. But that was the first time, because during those early days, apart from the local prison, the walls were made for B cats and A cats. A lot of the C cats had fences around it, and still have. But Albany, I got into reception, and I was waiting for my name to be called, and I had fearful feelings about what wing I was going to actually go on. So, you know, you're waiting for your name to be called in reception. You know that it's a violent place. You know some of the most violent criminals that have ever existed are in those places. So it is a fearful time. No matter what you say, you're always going to be worried. It don't matter who you think you are, what you was, or whatever. Everybody would have felt fear of some kind. So I got in reception, I got allocated, I think it was A wing, or it could have been C or D. I can't remember, but I did a couple of wings early on. During that time also, Pat, everybody, Kenny, not Kenny, even Razor, funny enough, Razor was here. Isn't that funny? I mentioned him this morning. Razor was there, and during this time when my behaviour first started as that alter ego, which was the great Yammy, which I associated with being some kind of bad man, being a robber man, and whatever you want to call it. We know about all that. So during this time, it's funny, I just got a story in my mind, because one morning, the night before actually, there was a plan. Only one man had a parcel of drugs, and he had cannabis, he had heroin, he had coke, he had everything. So I got the information that he was going to be in the recess, getting his parcel out first thing in the morning, about 9:30 in the morning. I knew there was a lot of criminals waiting also for him, because they were cannabis smokers and they wanted a piece of that. So I didn't want to upset too many people by stepping on people's toes, if you get what I mean. But I was only after one thing, which was the A class. So I waited, I was in the background in the toilet, there were about 19 people there. Lo and behold, Razor Smith was there, because Razor apparently used to like a bit of cannabis. Don't know whether he does now, but I know at some stage during his life he would have touched it in prison. So I waited, I got the sign off the man that gave me the information. When the parcel came out and he put his hand over the other side of the toilet to pass the ash and the cannabis to them lot, I moved in and got the A-class drugs. Basically robbed it. Sadly, that's how I was, and that's what it was, and it is what it is, and it was what it was. And obviously it's not that now, I'm not proud to say it. But these are the kind of things that happen in prison when you've got lunatics like me running around. So you might feel safe that you're bringing drugs in and you all got the currency, and you know you can act like the big man, but there are always people that will feel like they can take it off you. That morning I took it off him. So when I came out, everybody was looking at me, but it seemed like everybody was part of it anyway. Everybody was kind of all right with it, because they never touched the A-class. They got what they wanted. I got what I wanted. And when I came out, Razor, who was an old friend of mine anyway, who had been about 10 different jails with me, said to me, "Yammy, you are a raving lunatic. How could you have walked in there all by yourself?" Not glorifying that I could go on robberies all by myself, but I was desperate. You know, I never cared. You know, all I ever cared about during these stages was getting what I wanted. So yes, Razor was there, everybody was there, and yeah, that was one of the stories from that as well. So there you have it. This is Albany. We've been run ragged this morning, and this was also where I met the hardest prison officer in history, that I believe, in my opinion. Meaning, the hardest prisoner, if they talk about Charlie Bronson, and you talk about a different version, there was a prison officer called Dave D, who's got a wife, Sharon. Very fair man, very supportive, not really a bully, as that I felt that the prison system used to use him for their violence, to help out with the violence and the containment and the restraining of prisoners and that kind of stuff. Everybody's got a job to do. I understand that. I understood it then. There's always decent officers, there's always horrible ones, which is always the facts of life with everything, even with prisoners as well. But I found him all right, and he only seemed to work when he had to, you know, like to do the stuff that they used him for. In later life, they tried to be a bit horrible to him as well, you know, because he was the front man, like there always is a front man that leads the pack, that when you're going to get somebody out their cell, to remove them from their cell down to the segregation, you normally get the biggest and the strongest and the most bravest. Same with the criminals as well, to some kind of element. So yes, we've just been run around ragged by them all here. The police were called, we explained it all, we knew why I was here, and lo and behold, they said, don't worry about it, it's all right, as long as you're not doing it this way and doing it that way, everything's all right. It was interesting when I called a couple of names though, they soon changed their minds about everything, because they know I know the history of the Isle of Wight, but we're not going to go into that today. So very soon, we're going to do Camp Hill and Parkhurst, and I'll be shedding light on some of the most dangerous places. Camp Hill was a sea cat, it's closed now, but we'll be going there in a few days, depending on how long I stay down here. But yeah, sending you all a good day, just letting you know where I am why I'm out here for was a holiday, but then I remembered that I'd visited, as a prisoner, the 3 prisons that are on this island on numerous occasions. So good afternoon. Say hello to my nephew there. He's here as well. I know everybody says he looks like me. Everyone says he looks like me. There he is. Give us a smile. Jay, my boy, man. I love you, son. Well done, boy. Going to see you again soon. And wishing you all a good day. And I'll be back in a couple of days to shed light on the most, how can we put it, the frightening experiences that they used to give us when we was in certain jails, that the Isle of Wight, you don't want to go there because this will happen, that will happen. That was the stigma behind these places. Have a good day. Sending you love. I'll be up later on.